welcome to the Spark Lab. I'm Rebecca and this is Book and Cook. Today we are going to be marinating some tofu. This tofu, which looks incredibly unattractive right this minute, because we actually before took the tofu out of the package, we drained it, then we pressed it. To press your tofu, you just take 3 or 4 sheets of paper towel, put them on a firm surface. On the bottom, put your tofu down, put 3 or 4 sheets of paper towel on top, and just kind of press down. You want to get the water out. Tofu is a processed soybean product, so it comes with a lot of water to keep it moist. Unfortunately, that moisture makes it kind of mushy to eat. It also will not absorb your marinade well. As you heard, I said I froze this tofu. Tofu can also be frozen at any point in the process until you're ready to use it. You can take it right in its package, put the package in the freezer and freeze it, then thaw it and press it, or you can press it ahead of time, put it in the freezer to keep. You can get it ready fresh, marinate it, and put the marinade and the tofu in the freezer at the same time also until you're ready to use it. So we're going to start by making our marinade. For this marinade, we are going to be using half a cup of soy sauce, soy sauce, a 1/4 cup of seasoned rice vinegar. This is Nakano seasoned rice vinegar. Seasoned rice vinegar just means that it's usually made with added sugar and usually an added garlic quite often. And we're going to do a 1/4 cup of that. You can see I'm using the same cup measure for everything. I'm not fancy. You don't have to be either. It doesn't really affect the taste because it all ends up in the same bowl. Then we are going to add 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce. Not fish sauce, oyster sauce. Fish sauce is more liquid, tastes fishier. Oyster sauce is a thicker liquid, as you can see. It's sweeter. It doesn't really have a fishy flavor. It is literally oysters that have been cooked down. So you're going to do 2 tablespoons of that, and it gives that great umami flavor. And like I said, it does sweeten things up just a little. 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce. I highly suggest, this is Lee Kum Kee Panda brand, great oyster sauce. It's one of the better flavored, less expensive oyster sauces. Oyster sauces can get really, really expensive. That is available at Kroger's. Basically, all of these things are available at Kroger's or Meijer's, or you can go to your favorite Asian market. My favorite Asian market is Park to Shop on Telegraph by Joy Road near Randazzo's. Great place to go. Great little Asian market. So 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. This is regular sesame oil. You can also get black sesame oil. Black sesame oil has a much stronger flavor because the seeds are toasted very dark. It's kind of like when you're talking dark roast coffee versus regular coffee. Same idea. Your dark sesame oil is a lot more flavor. Not that regular sesame oil has a lot of flavor itself. I mean, it is not what's called a neutral oil. Your neutral oils are things like canola, vegetable oil, corn oil. One that's not neutral but usually doesn't have an incredibly strong flavor would be olive oil. A lot of us cook with our favorite extra virgin olive oil. Much stronger flavor. This really does taste like sesame. So 2 tablespoons of sesame oil. Now we're going to add a little kick. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of sriracha. It's not as much kick as you think. And it does give a little bit of a vinegar taste to your, believe me, the tofu wants some kick. 1. If you don't really like it spicy, you can just go with 1 instead of 2, but 2 is not going to kill you. And two things that unfortunately I did not realize we were out of in the Spark Lab pantry today. So we're not adding them, so we're gonna do a little substituting. The recipe that you can pick up from the library, and this would be chicken or tofu marinade number 4, if you come and get something from the Book and Cook at the adult information desk at the Henry Ford Centennial Library, or at the regular desk at either Esper or Bryant Branch. If you are doing it, you're supposed to use fresh minced garlic. We're just gonna put a little garlic powder in, and it's 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, about 4 garlic cloves. I like garlic, so I don't measure my garlic. I don't really think you can have too much garlic. Some people might not agree with me, but they're wrong. The other thing you're going to add is fresh ginger root. It really does give a little bit of a peppery taste. You can use powdered ginger, it's not as good. You really should get fresh root and grate it. And the nice thing about ginger root, it's really easy to clean. You just take your spoon, and then you just take your grater and do a little grating. Once you have all your ingredients in your bowl, give it a whisk, get them all stirred up. And set them there. I'm gonna move stuff a little bit away so you can see what I'm up to here. We're gonna cut up our tofu. Like I said, it's a really unappetizing looking block right now. And I can see it's actually leaching more water, which is a good thing, because the more water you get out of it, the more flavor you can get into it. Just like meats, it's easier to kind of cut them when they're a little frozen. The same thing with tofu. I will say, you see all those pictures in magazines where your tofu looks all pretty and square. My tofu never looks all pretty and square. The other thing about freezing tofu before you use it, it gets more of a texture, kind of like chicken. And it actually really looks a lot like just chicken, because it gets a little darker when you freeze it. So don't freak out when you take it out of your freezer and it was all nice and pale when you put it in there, and it's really does look like chicken. No, it does not taste like chicken. So you just kind of cut it into cubes. The size really isn't important. What is important is that you keep it all the same size. As with anything when you're cooking, you want to keep things in a uniform size, because if they're not in a uniform size, they cook at different rates, and you'll end up with tofu that's, when you're cooking, that's starting to burn, versus tofu that's not warmed through yet. Now, to cook your tofu, you can do that in a variety of ways. You can pan fry this, just pop it right in a hot pan with the marinade. That's the nice thing about marinating tofu, unlike marinating other meats. You can actually just cook with the remaining marinade. You don't have to worry about it being contaminated or anything, because this is not meat, this is soy. Yeah, you just kind of give it a rough chop. And we're now getting to the stuff that's really crumbled. Once we get that all chopped up, choppity. Again, like I said, just kind of uniform pieces, where you're going to end up with some small ones because the tofu just gets crumbly. Nothing you really can do about that. Don't get freaked out. None of this is rocket science, and nobody will die if you get it a little different. The only thing they'll do is if you leave it out all night, and if you eat it to them raw, then they might die, because that's food poisoning. Don't do that. So then you take your little marinade bowl, take your bunch of tofu, and you just slide it in the bowl. Try to get as much as you can cleaned off. And then you're going to want to take a spoon, and you're going to want to mix it up. Get it well coated. Get it all down in there. Everybody swimming in the pool. All well coated. Then you're going to want to take a piece of plastic wrap. You're going to want to cover over your bowl. You're going to want to put this in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes. 30 minutes is the absolute minimum. Really, the best thing to do is to marinate your tofu overnight. Then it'll really soak up all of the sauce and it tastes fabulous. And like I said, you can either pan fry it, or you could also put it on a baking sheet and bake it in the oven, make baked tofu. You can fry it with a little bit of extra oil and do like a kind of a shallow deep fry, not a deep fry, but a shallow fry, like you would fry chicken. Of course, that's going to add extra fat. The nice thing about tofu is there is no fat in tofu. But there it is, all set to go. If you leave it in the fridge for a couple hours overnight, stop by a couple times before you go to bed, give it a little stir, make sure that stuff isn't, not sitting in the marinade, that everything gets kind of a little bit of time in the marinade so it all goes. And that is tofu marinade number 4. You can also use it with chicken. You can also use it with pork. I'm not beef, it would be okay, but you want something that's a lighter flavored meat, so you're talking pork, chicken, tofu. All great for all of those. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time for Book and Cook. Bye.